Life Fight with Jermaine Andre is a positive production of RareGem Productions. For previous episodes or to get new episode updates, subscribe to the Life Fight channel hosted on the Inspiration Network of OneRareGem.com. That's OneRaregem.com for the tools you need to take on your life fight. With U.S. Martial Arts Hall of Famer, two-time world champion, five-time U.S. champion, UFC vet, life coach, and author, Jermaine Andre. Visit JermaineAndre.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Life Fight. Jermaine Andre here with my co-host, Rebecca Beck.
Hello.
And we are going to be talking today about my martial art movie heroes and their influence on my life. So this ought to be a funny one. This ought to be a pretty good one. So this is what I want you to do, Rebecca. Anybody open up the iPad there, and anybody that I talk about, Google them.
Okay.
So that way you can look at something, see if you got anything weird to ask me about them.
Okay.
But before we go into that, I definitely want to talk about the event that we had this weekend, Honor Before Glory.
Oh, yeah.
And just mention a little bit about it. Honor Before Glory was our actually youth combat exhibition where we had even 5-year-old kids, now not fighting, because we're not going to say fighting.
Well, explain what an exhibition is, just in case anybody doesn't know.
Well, exhibition is a fight, but it's not a
heavy
knockout.
Sparring match.
It's a heavy sparring match where you're displaying your martial art or your boxing or your kickboxing techniques, but you are really hitting each other.
Right.
And you are really boxing, so you can't get hurt.
So it's not a knockout.
But the intention is not to get hurt or to allow someone to get hurt.
Right.
So I created a league called Honor Before Glory because I wanted to allow kids this opportunity, because of the problem you have in the martial arts, especially with youth, is they learn all these fancy moves, these fancy techniques, and they never get to fight with it.
Yeah.
Which of course you don't really want kids fighting, but you still got to keep it real that if he's going to have to use this to defend himself someday, he needs to know if it's really going to work.
Yeah.
And if he really can block a real punch coming at him or her.
Yeah.
So the idea of Honor Before Glory is to create a league, first of all, where kids get to try their martial art techniques and see if it really works.
Right.
While I'm personally the referee and I'm supervising, making sure nobody gets injured, nobody gets hurt. And also, we had a creed that they had to say at the beginning that where they swore that they understood that this is not a fight. It's not my intention to hurt my sparring partner, even though I'm going to do the best that I can, so we're giving
the creed was beautiful. That's what set the whole tone of the whole event. And I think all the parents probably are one for life because of the creed.
Well, and that was the cool
amazing
part. Every parent and every kid left very happy.
They did.
And then more importantly, we had all different disciplines. That we had taekwondo there, boxing, kickboxing. They got to go against each other. Mm-hmm. So the taekwondo guys, they don't work leg kicks. And when our kids kick their legs, they're like, whoa, what is this? Yeah. And then, our kids, here's this taekwondo guy, his foot's, like a butterfly flying around their head. And they're like, what the, so everybody got to see where the taekwondo guy said,
back up.
Let me finish that.
No, back up.
Almost done. Where the taekwondo guy said, he's leaving and his kid's going to work on leg kicks. So now they're going to better themselves. And I'm saying, my kids are going to have to work more on those taekwondo kicks to the head to make sure they don't eat a toe or something like that. Now go ahead.
Just so everyone can understand a little bit of what the creed was, because I don't want to say that the creed was beautiful and that everybody understood it and we don't even tell them.
Well, maybe you should have read the creed.
Just give them a little bit of an idea of what the creed was.
Okay. Well, look, this the best way I can give it is I give first of all off the name, Honor Before Glory.
Yeah.
All right. One of the things that's happening with the martial arts, we all know I talk all the time, that MMA is one of the most popular things that's bringing attention to the martial arts now, and everything's for glory. It's losing its effect of honor, loyalty, integrity, things like that. It's become a sport, a sport, which is it's okay, but it's not okay for the martial arts. So what I'm doing is trying to teach the kids about having honor and proper training and, looking
respect towards trainers,
respect towards your trainers, respect for your fans to show up prepared properly, not showing up out of shape and drinking beer and smoking cigarettes, just being, somebody who a fan probably can beat you.
Right.
You just happen to know the promoter who let you get in there, you know what I'm saying? And just making sure that they understand, being a great martial artist before they start trying to get glory and get recognition for being something when they probably truly are not. So the whole idea of Honor Before Glory is to teach these kids about calmness, respect, sportsmanship, all of that before they get to glory. Now,
Right.
and that's the thing, even though this is not a kids fight league, like I told the kids, if you want to become a fighter, we'll make you one later.
Yeah.
Later. I don't think little kids should be, having that kind of aggression where they want to knock another kid's head off,
Yeah.
And so that was the whole idea of
young.
it. But the creed, I wish I had it with me. I don't have it here, so I'm not going to talk too much about it.
Yeah, we might have to post it on our Facebook
But we'll
page.
cover it later
Yeah.
when we bring some kids on to talk about the cover out. I just want to cover it in the beginning of the podcast. But it was just mainly to get the kids in mode and to get them understanding the whole idea of the honor before glory, because even like I said, some of the kids went in, sometimes you're going to be
Overpowered.
outmatched,
Yep.
and then sometimes you may outmatch the other one. Like I know we had one, our little girl, the guy she went against, it was first jab, boom, and his head rocked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, and I pulled her to the side and I said, you're going to have to just
Calm
punch in his
down.
chest.
Yeah.
Well, I told her, you're going to have to just punch in his chest.
Yeah.
You can't hit him like that.
Yeah.
And she had no problem. Yes, sir.
She understood it.
And she made sure he enjoyed himself, because it wouldn't have done no good. I think he was 10 to knock
Yeah.
his head off. That would have discouraged him. He would have quit his school
Yeah.
and it'd have been gone. He'd
Yeah.
been gone. But now he knows, and his sensei can say, see how that girl
Wow.
punched you in your face and
Yeah.
you didn't block? You got to get your hands up. And this is how you block that. And now he's going to get the block down. Then he gets to come back and say, try that again.
Yeah.
So now he's growing instead of just getting tore down.
Yeah.
And that's the whole idea of honor before glory.
Yeah.
And to create a fan base of people that respect, the martial arts. Like I said, when I fought in Japan, the audience was dead quiet. It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Why me and my opponent tried to destroy each other as grown men, because fighting is an adult thing. Fighting is violent. Even sport fight is very violent. That's for adults. And we tried to destroy each other. That was the most beautiful thing I ever did. And I loved doing it in front of that crowd. And I want them to get the experience and feel that, instead of just coming out and wanting to smash somebody, and fans cussing and being disrespectful, and them feeling like, well, I have to be a jerk to make the fans like me. And because there are people out there who love martial arts and who do love fighting, they just don't like that rude element that comes with it sometimes.
Yeah, well, and along with that, one of my favorite things that happened after Honor Before Glory is one of our little guys, his mom posted pictures, and she was really excited, and one of her friends came on and said, well, I mean, doesn't that make you nervous? Do you even like to watch that kind of stuff? And she came on and she said, it's a really safe tournament. Jermaine makes sure that nothing bad happens. These kids just really get to come out and display their martial art techniques. And then she grew a whole fan base from that, just from her saying that. So it's a really good event, and I really like the idea that kids can come out and do their thing and enjoy it and display their martial art technique without having to feel like they're knocking their opponent out, becoming a killer and doing that hardcore thing. So it's a really good idea. I like it.
Right, it's good for youth
involved
in the martial arts.
Yep.
And that's really good. Like you say, the person who went on her Facebook and said,
because that's what they think. Because most people out there are exploiting kids when it comes to martial arts. They're exploiting them. They're making their fan base, their fan base is the crazy beer drinking people that watch grown men knock each other out, and they're enjoying watching kids knock each other out.
Well, I've got no interest in watching two kids knock each other out. I'm sorry, I just don't.
We want to see them display it.
I got interest in them showing how good they are, and me as an adult holding them back until they get to a good age. Which actually somebody asked me on my Facebook. They said, "What age are good for kids to compete?" And I think even boxing doesn't let you compete till you're about 14. I think maybe even 16 in some states, and that's 14, 16, 14 with great supervision, as far as a ref, because one of the things with kids
is that to a knockout, or are they talking about to a knockout, or
that's competing? To somebody just dropped. You can knock them out. It might be a 3 knockdown rule or something like that. But the thing we have to keep in mind, that I keep in mind with Honor Before Glory, is when these kids get hit, you can be causing brain damage. Because no matter how much gear you got on, how much padding, you can't stop that brain from rocking against that skull. So you'll see me like you saw.
So is that something you can see?
Oh, you better
you
believe
see
it. I look. Remember, we had the 2 girls. They were 12 and
she was
13.
about to rock her.
Oh my goodness!
You
and she hit her
stopped
with
it.
that hard right, and that's why I was so close, and I got stepped on one time. But she hit her with a hard right, and her head went back, and I stepped right in and stopped it. And I looked at her, and she was good to go. But the thing I had to make sure was it didn't keep escalating. But that's the thing. You can't stop that brain from hitting that skull. So of course, I'm not gonna say like some people say, well, you shouldn't let them do it at all. But then, okay, well, if you're gonna say that, then they shouldn't do gymnastics because they're ruining their joints. Right. They shouldn't do football. They shouldn't run. They shouldn't do anything. Let's just sit them in a chair.
Or do anything.
Let's sit them in a chair and not let them do anything.
Yeah.
Kids need to know how to defend themselves, and we gotta find a safe way to allow them to learn it correctly without causing irreparable damage. Right. Where when they're 13 years old, they're brain dead. Yeah. Because the brain is not made to hit the skull. You know, even as an adult. And I got knocked out once in my fight career, swore it'd never happen again. It didn't. Yeah. You know, and when I got knocked out, I never forget, a week later, I was driving my Camaro, flying down the road. You know, well, actually, I was doing 45. I wasn't flying. Flying down the road.
You're right.
And my whole body seized. My brain seized, my face seized, and locked up, and my car flew in the ditch, you know. And luckily I got control. It didn't crash. I got control and pulled out. But my whole body seized. It just locked up. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. You know, and I'm like, well, I don't have anything weird, you know, that I never had any kind of sickness or anything. And I was like, how did this happen? You know, and then probably, you know, after that day, I was having dizzy spells, all kinds of stuff, weird things going on. It finally faded away. Yeah. You know, so.
And that was as an adult.
That's an adult. Yeah. I was a 27, 28-year-old man. Yeah. You know, so I'm saying as a kid whose brain's not developed, you know, that may have made me a little bit more retarded than I already was. You know what I'm saying? But a kid, I'm saying, I got to protect them from this because if one knockout did that, my body seized up and froze and my car almost flew off. You know, a little kid, who knows what kind of damage it's going to do. So
what is it that you see when you're watching a match? What is it that you see in these kids that allows you to have that separation of a knockout and not a knockout?
I look for one thing is if anybody takes a hard hit where I see the head rock back, then that's an automatic stop. Okay. And I'm walking them back, make sure they can walk. You know, talking to them, you know, and making sure that they're with me. But the main thing I read that makes me, you know, where I feel that I'm good at it is I read emotion. Yeah. Making sure I can look at somebody's face. Well, I can look at their face and their expression. I can tell when somebody's mad and they're getting ready to try and destroy the other opponent, you know, and they're looking at them like, and I'll stop it. Or I can tell when somebody's giving up. Yeah. You know, and that comes from fighting. That's how I used to defeat my opponents. You know, I could tell when my opponent was strong and coming at me, and I'd, you know, weave away or get out of direction because I knew he was coming pure power, and I could tell when he was weak, when his expression changed, and I said, I got you now, sucker. You know, and then that's when I would unload on him because that was the best time I attack him was when he was weak because then I'd have to use as much strength and as much power. Yeah. So that's that's why you see when I was reffing, I was so close in there because I'm reading emotion, which emotion predicts what's about to happen. Yeah. I could tell what you're about to do. Yeah. I can see it on your face. You know, so I'm not waiting until after it happens.
So in training is where they can release it farther than where we stop them, right?
Definitely. Hitting pads, hitting equipment and things like that. That's where they can go too far. That's why they can really they can really unload. Yeah, but they're not unloading on each other like that.
That makes sense.
Not before glory.
Yeah, not in front of their audience and their fans who wants to see a good show.
So, but it was a really good show. It was a lot of fun.
Very good show.
Great growth for the kids, and you're gonna be all of them want to come back, and plus we're going to include more schools, different. You know, that's the main thing I like is having different disciplines, and each discipline. You know,
that was really good. Yeah, I never saw Taekwondo fight MMA fight. That was really
it's cool. You see the difference. You watch the Taekwondo guy with that foot move. You're like, what the?
And the MMA guy was like, yeah, right. And he came back with this. And the Taekwondo, it was really good.
Well, just even like then they seen the leg kicks. They say when they saw the guys battling and kicking legs, they were like, oh my goodness, look at what they're doing each other. You know, so you know it's really good. Yep. So moving it along before we get stuck too long on that, my martial art movie heroes. Now, this is something that's important because my martial art movie heroes are people who actually kind of created a path for me and guided me. Now, this is the funny part that you're going to learn about me. Most people, when they pick a celebrity that they fall in love with, whoever Michael Jackson, when they pick them, they follow their life. Yeah. I never followed any of my martial art movies, heroes' life. I followed their character because that's who I liked. So I didn't care about what, such and such was doing, R. Kelly, was doing at home, because it's not going to upset me that he's a weirdo, that they reported he was. I don't know. I wasn't there because I'm not there for him as a person because I don't know him. I'm there for his music. Yeah. So that's so if you're researching and you say, well, Jermaine, do you know that? What about Bruce Lee and blah, blah, blah? And he was born. Where was he born? I don't know. Yeah. And I don't care. I was following the character that he portrayed in the movie, his talent, and the image that he was. That's what I liked. Yeah. So Of course, having said that, Bruce Lee was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
You know, my mother's got a story she always tells that when I was a baby, she used to watch tons of Bruce Lee movies all the time. And I used to always kick in her stomach, and I've kicked harder than any kid she had. You know, it was 4 of us. That I was always kicking hard. And she always said she knew I was going to come out and be some karate kung fu guy.
Yeah.
You know, and of course I came out and, you know, she had me watching Bruce Lee. My auntie had me watching Bruce Lee also. And I really fell in love with Bruce Lee. And and I'm gonna tell you what I learned from each one of my martial art movie heroes. What I liked about Bruce Lee was his commitment, the character he played. Bruce was always down to a T. He always had this thing where you were not going to punk him and his people out. He would give his life.
Yeah.
Like in I think it was the Chinese.
What movie was what was one of your favorite Bruce Lee movies?
That's going to be funny because you could sit and watch Bruce Lee movies with me, and I could say all the words as they going through it, but I can't remember the names of them.
Oh,
you know, because the name wasn't important.
I got you.
I just watched the movie, but you know, I think the Chinese Connection was the one where the Japanese came in. They murdered his teacher,
okay,
and they came in. And remember, I showed that to you, and they brought in the sign that said "Sick Man of Asia," and they were calling him sick, and they were smacking Bruce Lee and trying to get him to fight, and he wouldn't fight. Yeah. Because, you know, his current sensei was telling him, or Sifu would be the Chinese term, was telling him not to fight.
Right.
And so he stood there letting them slap him and knock him around, and he didn't do anything. Well, he went over to their school by himself and took that sign back to him.
Yeah.
Said, I brought this back. And so they're like, what? The Japanese, you know, they're in their dojo and the karate, they ready to fight. And he beat them all up. Well, of course, this escalated and the situation turned worse, and it turned out bad for all of them. Yeah. You know, but the thing that I always liked about Bruce Lee was he was always down. He always was loyal to his teacher. And that's one of the things I learned from him is about being loyal and protective of your sensei, your Sifu, your dojo, your school, you know, and even if he was always the strong one, right? Even if you had to do it by yourself against many. Yeah. That's what you did. And I had situations where I had to go against, 4 or 5 people. One time, one guy had an axe, I think, another one had a lead pipe, another one had a bat. And the first thing came to my mind, I could have jetted and left, and I had every right to, but I thought about Bruce Lee. Yeah. And the fact that, they had done something these guys had done something really bad. And that'll come out in the Muay Tiger book later. But I said, I'm not running. Yeah. I will be dead here like Bruce Lee, before I'm going to take off and let this injustice go. Yeah. And I destroy these guys, like it was nothing, so he really gave me a lot of belief in myself as a person standing for what's right, regardless of what everybody else thinks, what the police think, what anybody thinks that, oh, don't do that. That's not the way. No, you know what? You're not making this decision because you don't know what occurred here. Yeah. And I'm going to stand for what's right and fall for what's right no matter what, which is what he did in his movies.
Well, and a part of your black belt system, one thing in your black belt system, you always say that you created everything off experience, off everything that you feel that you believe fits, and you adapt to everything. And one thing with Bruce Lee is he is the founder of Jeet Kune Do, and that's something that's a big part of your Muay Thai sprawl, and that is a big part of your black belt system. So that's one thing I like about your heroes is you did use them as a part of your experience in what you've created for the everyday people too.
But Bruce Lee is the original founder of MMA. Yeah. Which now I just said that, we're going to get a whole bunch of, I'm going to get cussed out on my Facebook page by people who disagree. And that's okay, because I want to hear from you, if you don't agree with me. Remember, I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to help you to think so we can all think together and figure it out. And truthfully, none of us were there, so nobody knows the facts. You know what I'm saying? So, but through his movies, he even introduced Russian Sambo. Yeah. Which was a grappling dog. He brought the big Russian in that he fought, and the Russian put him in an armbar. And what I liked about Bruce, besides the fact that he always made his movies funny too, he always had funny scenes in it, was he would show in his movies that he didn't know everything. Yeah. And the guy had him in the armbar, and he's sitting there, and you can see his face go like, what the heck? He's trying to get out. He couldn't get out. So he bit him, and the guy's like, and he jumps up, and Bruce wipes his mouth off. And I'm like, that's just awesome. He didn't do anything fancy. He didn't do anything crazy. He just said, something, this dude's leg is across my face, and I'm going to bite this fool. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So he always tried to keep it kind of real, which kind of showed me that he was he had a real true understanding to the martial arts. Right. And I have read his books, and his philosophies are just great. Yeah. I like one of my favorite ones I like is he was telling about, he was sitting at home and a friend asked him, hey, what are you doing today? And he said, nothing. And his friend said, "Oh, can you help me do this?" He said, "No, I'm doing nothing."
Yeah.
And that's what he said. "I'm doing nothing today." And that's what I was doing.
That makes sense to people.
Yeah, they don't even understand that doing nothing, that was his time off, his time to recoup and recover. That doesn't mean him doing nothing. It means he owes you something. He owes you his time. So, just the way that he thought. And of course, I don't even want to talk about his talent.
Yeah.
The way he moved. A lot of my movements mimic Bruce Lee's movements. A lot of my flexibility, my speed, my attitude, my confidence.
Yeah.
He would get hit. Sometimes he showed himself getting knocked around, but he always returned back. He always came back and bounced back. He was that champion that when he got knocked down, he got back up and he continued his fight until he won or he lost.
Right.
Which, was something that he lost. He got shot in a couple of his movies, and taken out.
On to your next one.
Jim Kelly. Now, Jim Kelly, I was a fan of him. He wasn't out there very much. He was in Bruce Lee's movies. He didn't have big parts. Of course, he died fast in his movie. He was a black guy.
Yeah.
And the thing that I liked about Jim Kelly was he was a black guy with an afro. So back in the 70s, back in the time that I think Bruce was 60s, 70s, but back in those times, he was showing that he was proud to be black.
Yeah.
And I like that about it. He had a big old giant afro and he carried himself real suave, cool. And what I really liked was in one of Bruce Lee's movies, like I said, I can't remember the names.
Maybe Enter the Dragon.
Enter the Dragon. That's what I was going to say. Enter the Dragon. Can you edit that out, Bill Shoes? No, don't edit it. I'll leave it in there. But he got caught sneaking around. They thought the owner of this island that they were on, that they were supposed to be investigating. It was an island they were all supposed to go fight these karate matches on. And the owner of the island was running some opium trade or something from it. And Bruce Lee was supposed to be under, working for the FBI to help bust him and all this kind of stuff. And Bruce Lee was sneaking around. And they thought that it was Jim Kelly. So they, of course, blaming the brother for the stuff that the Chinese dude did. And so they pulled him up. So you were sneaking around. He's like, "What? I didn't do nothing. I'm just chilling, He innocent. And the owner of the island told him and said, "You're arrogant. You're very arrogant. And, one day you're going to lose." And Jim Kelly said, "The day that I lose, I won't even notice because I'll be too busy looking good." And I was like, "What the?" And of course, the dude beat Jim Kelly up and killed him. But what I took from that, and I tell people to take from what Jim Kelly said, because you look at that and say, "Well, that was pretty cocky and arrogant of him to say." But what you take from what Jim Kelly said is, like I tell you, is that he said, "I'm going to be so confident and I'm going to be so busy trying to destroy you that when I lose, I'm not going to know it."
Right.
Because there's never going to be a moment that I'm going to stop trying to destroy you and lose my confidence until you get me.
Right.
And so that really, really made me like him, because that's what I took from that with Jim Kelly. Next one, Chuck Norris. One of the main things I like about Chuck Norris was Chuck Norris was super manly. He had a beard, hair on his chest. He was 100% manly. And the thing I like about him, he wasn't very fancy.
Yeah.
He didn't have a lot of fancy moves. But he just had like that. He had the spinning backhand and that side kick that was just a killer, and just his attitude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He was just all American tough and stern. He wasn't ashamed to be a macho man. That's what I liked about him. But you look at my sidekick.
Yeah.
And he's the one that made me believe in that sidekick because I'd watch. You know what I'm saying? And like most people you watch martial arts, you want to see some fancy stuff, all this. I always look for something that would work.
Yeah.
And I would look and say, that looked like that works.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris, one of the good things about Chuck Norris too is he actually kickboxed for real, so he actually started out, and you always say this about people in the military, he started out in the Air Force before he even went into martial arts or acting. So you always say about people in the military, they have that basic stuff that makes them just tough about what they can do. They have basic techniques, they have a very certain style, and he was in the Air Force before he went into what he did when it came to martial arts and military or acting. So that's probably what his style is from. Well, it definitely rolled over.
Yeah,
you could tell. And that's why I say that the pride.
Is
one of the things that it provides them with.
Yeah,
and he just like I said, that sidekick was so. I loved it so much because I would see it and say, man, that looked like that could really, really work.
Yeah.
And so I started working mine, and mine just became a killer, and just made it worse enough. But I really enjoyed, especially when he went against Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
And when Bruce Lee brought him in. And, he came in, and Chuck Norris actually was not a bad guy in Bruce Lee's movie. So I like the way they played that. He was brought in by another crew to fight Bruce Lee, but he still never did anything wrong.
Right.
So when he died and Bruce Lee killed him, Bruce didn't want to kill him. Bruce Lee even folded up his gi and, folded his black belt, and it made Bruce Lee mad. He went after the guy that put them together to fight. So I like the way that they showed, that the way that they portrayed that between the two of them as martial artists.
Right.
That two great martial artists could come together and end up fighting and having to take each other out, and nobody was really even the bad guy.
Right. So what was your favorite movie between Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee?
Between the two?
Yeah.
I mean, Bruce is my boy. You know what I'm saying? I think Chinese Connection.
Yeah.
Was definitely had to be my favorite. Now I have to let me think with Chuck Norris. Like I said, I was never big on names of movies. I know he had the Invasion USA.
What about Way of the Dragon? That was Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris. Did you ever see that one?
No.
Oh.
Way of the Dragon.
Yeah.
Really? Well, that sounds like I need to watch that. Yeah, because I remember, Chuck was Invasion USA. I can't remember his other movies before that. Like I said, I was young, when all those guys were out.
Yeah.
And I paid more attention to the character than the name of the movie or anything like that.
Makes sense.
Anything like that. Like I said, I didn't follow the Hollywood thing of, Chuck Norris just married, such and such. Who cares, man? I ain't paying attention to that. That's that man's personal life. He don't even know who I am. You know what I'm saying? So, but all right, moving along. And like I say, that's one of the things I learned from Chuck Norris was that you can be basic.
Yeah.
And proud. To be basic.
Right.
He didn't have, I always would watch and wait for him to do something super fancy, cool. And he wouldn't do it. It's like, this dude got confidence in what he doing. It's going to be a sidekick and a spinning backhand. It's going to be quick as hell. And and his beard and his hairy chest and, and probably M60, for the movie. And he's good with that. So I always felt like he had this image that everybody was saying, "Oh, Chuck, you need to let us tie this string to your back of this." And he was saying, "Get away from me before I start kicking your jaw." You know what I'm saying? So he was really macho. And that's
Which
why I
fits
really
his military background, because that's what military are.
That's how military are. You ain't gonna change them.
Yeah.
Military. You don't need a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one I liked was Mac. A lot of people don't know who he was. Mac was in The Last Dragon. It was a movie that was made. And it was really, really a good movie because it was made in supposed to be like a black martial art movie with all black martial artists in it. The bad guy, Shogun, this dude that a lot of people think looks like me, or I kind of resemble him with the hair. It's the way I wear my hair. Hilarious movie. Hilarious. But I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about the character. And what I liked about Mac that I learned about him, all through the movie, he was a martial art expert. Yeah. Lover of Bruce Lee, trained all the time. People looked up to him, but he never, ever wanted to fight. He didn't do the martial arts because he wanted to fight. He just loved it for the spirit of it. He loved it for the personal growth. He was really good, but he didn't want to fight. He was a really nice guy, a lover. He was shy. He was in love with with trying to think who the girl was in that movie. She was big time superstar singer. She was
Janet
gorgeous.
Jackson.
No, not Janet Jackson. Nice try. The thing was, and he was in love with her. And it showed he was super shy. He wasn't no big pimp daddy macho man. He was a really nice kid, just living with his parents. And this Shogun guy just kept pushing him.
Yeah.
And pushing him and beating him up, and he would take beatings, and Shogun even came into his school and knocked one of the students around, but he was taught that you don't use the martial arts to fight, because it's going to make things worse. And he really displayed that strong in this movie to where it helped me to build that into me, that you can back down and not be a coward,
right?
And he fought hard, and it showed him that his little brother called him a coward, and I mean just all kinds of things. And it made him feel ashamed. It showed him feeling ashamed of who he was, and he was afraid of this Shogun dude. Because Shogun was, "Who's the master? I will break you. Kiss my Converse." He broke into his school, kicked him, "Kiss my Converse."
Yeah.
So he was a beast. Shogun. He was tearing people up, and he was afraid of them. But that's what I like, is that he showed that the martial art had a spiritual side to you. You could be strong without having to be a fighter.
Yeah.
And then in the end, when Shogun pushed him and kidnapped his girl, did you find her name?
Her name was Vanity in the movie.
Vanity, yeah, that's her. She was a good singer back then too. And kidnapped Vanity, then that pushed him. Okay. Then he had to use his martial arts to go after him.
Yeah.
But this is the trick that I like about the movie, which I ain't supposed to be talking about the movie. I'm supposed to be talking about Mac. And I'm going to get back to you, Mac. But what I liked about the movie was Shogun believed in himself. He was the bad guy. And whoever believed in himself, you're supposed to get this glow. Ooh, you are the last dragon. You get this glow and this superpower. And Shogun believed in himself. So when he was fighting Timac at the end, he started glowing.
Right.
He's like, yeah, boy, now I got you. And he started turning Timac up because he truly believed in himself. But while he was beating Timac up, Timac started having flashbacks of what had happened to him and the people who believed in him. And he realized and started believing in himself. And so then he got the glow. And of course, he ended up winning. But it had a really good message in the movie. But that's what I liked about Timac, was that he showed that you don't have to be a badass, to be a martial artist.
Right.
That you can train and you can be powerful and you can do it just for the self-empowerment, the betterment of yourself, betterment of your spirit, the balance of
Absolutely.
life. You don't have to go out there and beat people up to be the greatest martial artist.
Which is what we teach most of the people that we train with. Because,
Right.
you want to have both aspects, and it's really important.
Which I do still, me personally, I do still recommending, as a martial artist, do some type of combat.
Absolutely.
So you can make sure you can use your stuff.
Right.
But that was the thing that I took from him.
Okay.
My next person, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now, look, I'm getting booed and hissed. I just lost a whole bunch of my listeners because of But look, I like Jean-Claude Van Damme because Jean-Claude Van Damme, you know what I learned from him? Flexibility.
Yeah.
Flexibility. That
And
man
style.
getting the splits. Flexibility and beauty.
Yeah.
Because he was a dancer.
Yeah, he had style.
Yeah, he was a dancer, so he did everything precise
all go
with
hand in
beauty.
hand. That's
And
right.
that jump spin, and you look at my jump spin heel kick. Like I remember a ballet teacher, I was training her, and then she seen me in class. She was filming me actually.
Right.
And she was filming. When I did that, she said, "You look like a ballet dancer. It's incredible how you move. You're graceful. You don't look like you're fighting. You look like you're dancing." But I picked up a lot of that grace from watching Jean-Claude and the way he moved. But that grace is also what made me precise with my targeting and my release of power. And one of the other
No, go ahead.
Oh, and another thing I like about Jean-Claude was Jean-Claude brought to the movies was emotion.
Yeah.
You watch his movies. What was my?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, even though you don't know names, what's your favorite movie? Come
You
on.
have to name his movies for me.
Kickboxer, Bloodsport.
Kickboxer, Bloodsport. Oh my goodness! I mean, both of those. All right, because he introduced Muay Thai to the world.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what Muay Thai was. He brought that in the movie. With Paco. I remember his name. Paco came in. He had his hands up. He was kicking people in the leg. You know what I'm saying? And then with Kickboxer, where he went to Thailand, even though he didn't do any Muay Thai himself, he was using his own style, but he was training by a Muay Thai trainer. When you first seen somebody kicking trees, which I watched that. And I actually kicked oak trees, which is not what they were kicking. They were kicking banana trees. But I was kicking oak trees for my career, which was cool because it made my legs tougher than probably the guys in Thailand legs were, because I was kicking a solid oak tree for my, fight career. But he introduced a lot of things through his movie and through his acting. But Lionheart was my favorite.
Yeah.
Lionheart made me cry over and over again. We're going to watch it when I go home later on tonight. Lionheart was so good because of his mission and just his acting. And that's the one thing he could bring with the beauty of his fighting, his little fighting style. And you may say, oh, he's not a martial artist. He's just this and that, Jean-Claude, this and that. And I think he got some things in his background that a lot of people don't agree with. But as far as the actor and what he brought, it inspired me a lot.
Right. So it's more than just the way they fight in their martial arts. Sometimes it has to do with
the character.
Yes. The way they treat people, the way their attitude is, everything that goes with everything that has to do with their martial arts and their fighting. Yeah, which is really hard to teach people nowadays. It's really hard.
Well, you know what they taught back in those days? Having a code of honor to use your martial arts for.
Yeah.
All of these guys, Bruce Lee, Jim Carrey, Chuck Norris, Timac, Jean-Claude, they always in their movies were using their martial arts to fight evil.
Their code,
You know what I'm saying? And most of the time, they didn't want to fight.
Right.
They weren't out there just running the streets beating people up.
Yeah.
They did not want to fight. It was for a reason.
Absolutely.
And that's the main thing I picked up out of all of them. But yeah, Jean-Claude, man, his grace, his beauty, and just the emotion he brought in the martial arts. Like I said, that Lionheart, man, just drive me, up the walls every time. So Jean-Claude Van Damme was one of my guys too. Now my last one, Lone Wolf.
Yeah.
Lone Wolf. And most people have no idea about Lone Wolf and Cub. Lone Wolf was a samurai warrior who was a shogun. He was the second to the shogun, which that's the guy who, when you get called to commit harakiri, seppuku, where you have to cut the stomach out, he was the one who chopped your head off if you grimaced or quinced or anything, or made embarrassed yourself by making a noise. So if you made noise when you were cutting your stomach out, that was an embarrassment. So they chop you. Thanks a lot for having my back. You know what I'm saying? But then again, really thanks. But he was set up by a ninja clan that wanted to have his position, and they murdered his wife and set him up to make it look like he was trying to murder the Shogun, or he betrayed the Shogun. And so he actually, because the Shogun sent everybody after him, he actually said he was condemning himself to hell.
Right.
And he was going to, until he kills all of this ninja clan, life meant nothing to him. But the cool part is, in the beginning of the movie, he had a son. And the son was a little bitty baby, and he didn't kill the son. They didn't kill the son through all of this. The ninjas didn't. And he was getting ready to leave because his wife was dead. And he said, I'm taking the path of hell, and I'm going to, get rid of all these people who killed my wife. And the son crawling up, and he looked down at his son, and he took his sword out, wrung his sword, stuck it in the ground, and then it took this ball and set a ball kind of, a little bit away from the sword. Then he put his son away from both of them, and he said, choose. If you choose the sword, then I will send you. He said, then I pity you. You will walk your life with me.
Yeah.
And then he said, if you choose the ball, I will send you to hell with your mother.
Yeah.
And so the baby walked over, then crawled up and touched the sword.
Little baby too.
Yeah,
right?
no, he was
1 year old.
He's like one. Touched the sword, boop. So he touched the sword. So he's like, you poor thing,
Yeah.
And he put him on his back. So he takes this kid all the way through. And they got all these movies. The kid's growing up. Everything. I can't even talk about all the cool stuff that happens. That's a whole nother podcast. This Lone Wolf. But just to give you an instant of what happened, a bunch of female ninjas came after him, and they captured his kid, and they hung his kid over this well, and they had him by the rope, and they said, surrender or we'll kill your kid. And he came out. He said, you cowards.
Yeah.
You think that I'm going to surrender just because you're going to kill my kid? He's already dead. And they just kind of, what the? And then his kid kicked off his shoe, and the shoe just fell, and you can see Lone Wolf listening. And what he was doing was counting. And then you hear the shoe hit the water. So he counted how long he had. And then he cut up all these female niggas, whooped their butts. And then they let go of the rope. And so his son's falling. And he killed him killed everybody in just enough time. And he stepped on a rope, and then he left one alive, which was the leader. And she's sitting there like, all terrified. He's just looking at her. And he's pulling his rope up all slow. While he's sitting there staring at her, he pulls it up. And all that happened was his son's feet got wet.
Yeah.
But the whole thing that it showed, and I learned from there, I said, it showed that you have to be willing to lose it all to keep it all. He didn't. He was not succumbing to terrorism.
Yeah.
I don't care if you got my kid. He's already dead, partner. I'm not giving up. So then you can do whatever you want to. Both. I'm gonna take you guys out and try to save him.
Right.
And him not panicking is what saved his kid. But that's what he really displayed, was a strong discipline, a strong calmness through all of his movies. Plus, the way he worked that sword, I just say, man, this dude, he had to have some serious sword training. Because of the tricks he do with his sword when he's working that sword is just some of the fanciest stuff I've ever seen in my life. And some of the trick techniques, that were never even taught to me. You see me doing fancy stuff with my sword. That's what I picked it up off of.
No,
people be like, whoa, Jermaine, how'd you do that? And I'd be like,
that's really important to know, that you can have these people, whether they're, in the limelight or whatever, that you can still find their good traits and you can follow it and keep it in your life and live a really good life and keep their characteristic traits. So I really like that.
And I think that's what a lot of people try to do in movies, is present something like that.
Like these
martial art movies.
You just got to find the right one. That's right.
Find the right one, and follow follow the character. Don't get involved in where you follow somebody's life and making them a life mode. And when something happens to them, or they do something, you just like say if Jean-Claude Van Damme do something stupid, I'm not going to start hating him.
Yeah.
Because I never knew
you. Can't live it that far. Yeah.
I never knew him anyway.
Yeah, you can't live it that far.
When I die, Jermaine's funeral happens, Jean-Claude Van Damme ain't come to my funeral. Unless we end up meeting after this, podcast or something. But so I'm just loving what his character did for my life.
Absolutely.
And I'm thanking him as a person for playing that character.
Yeah.
Because he made that character become true.
And you were actually Lone Wolf for Halloween one year, so I will let everyone know that.
Nobody knew. Yeah, nobody knew. I had a baby on my back.
You had the whole thing going on.
Yep. Maybe I'll do it again.
Yeah, that was really good. Now I have a few that I still want to ask you about that you haven't mentioned, that I'm sure people are going to ask you about.
Okay, sure.
What about Steven Seagal? What's going on with Steven Seagal?
Oh, boy.
Is he one or not?
Steven Seagal. All right, well.
Lay it all out, Jermaine.
What was Steven Seagal's first? Above the Law.
Above the Law.
Above the Law came out when I was a kid, and he introduced that Aikido. And that was some of the dopest stuff I ever seen in my life. And yes, I was a Steven Seagal fan. I like his stern image and everything, where he never changed his expression, and the choreographed moves were just incredible. Now, where I started disliking Steven Seagal was when they started pushing this Aikido to be this super great martial art. And that's, of course, at that moment, that was when MMA or NHB was coming out. And we were becoming NHB fighters, where we were challenging, everybody. All these people talking about they could touch you with 3 fingers and you would die. Bring it to the cage. Bring it to the cage. Prove it. That's all we want you to do is prove it. We ain't mad at you.
Right.
Just come on to the cage and let's prove it. And so, like I said, I never followed a movie star's life.
Yeah.
Now, I kept hearing that Steven Seagal was claiming to be this super bad dude. He claimed to be this and that, and that he grew this image of being a smack talker, which he may not have. I don't know. But he was growing this image of being a smack talker, and he never had fault.
Yeah.
It's just like, even like Bruce Lee. I don't think Bruce Lee ever, I've never heard him saying that he used to beat up 500 people and he could do this and that. He just had his philosophies, his training, and his movies.
Yeah.
And he left it at that. I never heard of Jean-Claude Van Damme saying, I can kill 5 people in one room. You know what I'm saying? So Steven Seagal was developing this reputation, and me as an NHB fighter, pioneer of it, it's my job to challenge anybody who claimed to be a great martial who could do this, okay, why aren't you fighting?
Right.
We want to see you do this for real, not on your students who are trained to attack you a certain way. So that's why I kind of grew away from him.
That makes sense.
But I still have to respect and be loyal to the fact that I still did gain things from him.
Right.
Because when Steven Seagal was showing that stuff, I was trying it. You know what I'm saying? And I was trying it on my friends, and some of it was working.
Yeah.
So it still taught me a different flow with my body and movements of the martial arts that I developed on my own. Because I studied a little bit of Aikido, not enough. When I say studied, that was, books, videos, watching him, where I could feel how I could work on somebody who's running at you. I always say Aikido can work on somebody who can't fight.
Right.
If they're running at you or they throw a wild swing, you could tear them up with it. And one time what happened, one of the things that really kind of made me go down about the Aikido was that it started pushing. It seemed they was pushing a lot of students who were, pushing this thing out that this was this great new art.
Right.
And of course, it was competing with NHB. I'm trying to get students for self-defense and showing them this real stuff that I've used for real fighting. And the guy down the street's getting all these students because he's using this name. He's never even had a fight. Right. So of course that's
So just so everyone knows, what's Aikido? Just in case anybody doesn't know what it is.
It's just a martial art.
Okay.
It's a martial art. But I had a situation when I was a bouncer.
Okay.
And this guy who was actually, he claimed to be a student of the Aikido school out here. And he had a group of people with him, and he was talking about Aikido, and just talking about great. And all these people looking all out like, oh my God, wow. And he comes walking up. I'm just standing here outside the bar down on the land, and he walks up and he's like, can I borrow you for something for a second? And I'm kind of like, yeah, sure. And he turns around to the group. He starts talking. He got his chest stuck out. Well, you can see this guy. See how big he is. But I'm going to show you how Aikido is. How great it is. Even against somebody big. Because he's going to be slow and this. So he's just talking bad about him. It's just like, what the hell is, And so he turns back to me. He says, I want you to go ahead and try to punch me in the face. And I said, are you serious? And he said, yeah. He said, don't worry about it. You won't even be able to touch me. And I'm like, are you serious? He's like, yes. And all these people are looking, and they're just, bowing down to him. And so I'm like, okay, well, you ready? He's like, yep. At any moment, he takes his little weird stance, and I pop him in the nose, and his hands are flying in the air, and my hands are back in my waist, and he's just like, oh, and I didn't hit him real hard. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just not that kind of guy. Right. And so I'm like, I say, are you okay? And he's like, well, I wasn't really ready. And he's holding his nose, I say, all right, don't worry about it, man. School. He's like, no. Try it again. I said, are you sure? You want to do that again? And he's like, yeah. I said, okay, I'm going to let you know when I'm going to go. And I raise my hands a little bit. I'm like, because I'm trying to give him, some type of advantage. I'm like, you ready? He's like, yeah, I'm ready. He got his hands up in the stand. You ready? And I pop him again. Boom. This time I bust his nose a little bit. He's there holding his nose. Everybody's looking, this and that. He's like, oh my God, you're fast. I didn't think you'd be that fast. You're that big. I say, you do the martial arts, right? He said, yeah, I do Aikido. I train this and that. He started dropping Steve Seagal name, all this. And I say, the first thing any martial art teacher should teach you is you don't underestimate anybody.
Yeah.
I said,
Absolutely.
dude, I'm a professional MMA fighter or NHB fighter. He didn't really know what NHB was. I said, Muay Thai and boxing is my thing. My hands are lightning fast.
Yeah.
He said, well, I see that now. He said, like, the lessons on me. So that kind of put a bad taste in my mouth towards it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So my experience with it was like that. So, and so always, and there was a day I got mad at myself because I found myself talking bad about Steven Seagal one day to somebody. And I said, Jermaine, for one, you don't even know Steven Seagal. What are you doing talking bad about this man? For two, Aikido still had a good influence in your martial art life.
Right.
And so I kind of spanked myself and said, bad Jermaine for dissing Steven Seagal. Just like I spanked myself one time, I dissed Jean-Claude Van Damme because everybody else was dissing him.
Yeah.
And I said, wait a minute, Jean-Claude did you right. He never did nothing wrong for you as this character in the movie.
From
So I can't be just because everybody else is against him, go against him. What are you being a coward, Jermaine?
Right.
So that's kind of where I felt with the Steven Seagal thing. And then what ended up happening, years later, after my whole fight career, everything, I was training some guardian angels from New York. And they came to me to learn, and they wanted to learn, and I started teaching them stuff. And I was like, well, what do you guys usually use? They said, well, we use Aikido. If somebody just says something, kind of like, oh. I said, well, you know what? Well, show me something. I said, show me something you would use. And the dude was like, okay, well, just throw it. If most people throw a wild right hand, which is true. He said, go ahead and throw a wild right hand at me. I said, okay. And I drew back through it, and he did a move and I almost broke my foot.
Oh, yeah.
It worked. I tripped him. I was like, whoa. And I said, that worked. If that guy does that to you.
In that situation.
Yeah, in that situation, which on the subway, like you said, on the subway, we've experienced most guys when they get mad, they reach back with a wild right hand and throw it. And that move worked where it could have hurt him, and I caught my balance because of my martial skill.
Yeah.
But where it could have hurt somebody, and it sent them, and they would have hurt themselves, and it would have stopped the fight. Whereas my thing was now you got blood everywhere, you got to fight, So I said, maybe there is. So that's why I even always say, I like when I get everything together, I still got some more training to go do.
Yeah.
And Aikido probably is going to be one of the arts that I'm going to go research and study, because now that I've grown to a different point in my life, where I say, like I even teach the bouncers and security and people like that, bouncers, not bodyguards. Bodyguards are supposed to be deadly force all the time. But bouncers, you don't want to fight to start.
Yeah.
Because when a fight starts, now this poor innocent girl who's spending $1,000 with her friends just caught an elbow in the nose. Her face got broken. Now the club getting sued and it's getting shut down.
And I have one more I want to ask you.
Okay, yeah, because we run out of time.
I know everybody you're talking about so far has been old school you learned from. Is there anybody new age? And I have one name, Michael Jai White.
Ooh, don't mess with me about Michael Jai White.
Is he somebody that you feel that you've learned from, or is he entertainment?
Oh, man. Great entertainment.
Yeah.
Definitely learn from him because he ripped, shredded, and he's quick. And actually, what was the movie? Never Back Down.
Yeah.
Was it Never Back Down 2? And he had the last fight scene. First of all, the whole movie was dope. The whole idea was dope. And Michael Jai White got it. He got the look, the expression, the moves, and just he's ripped and shredded. And that's what I like, is he shows that you can look good and everything else. But at the end of the movie, he's fighting the main fight.
Yeah.
And he made a move in there that really made me curious, because when him and the guy were fighting, and there was something I can't even explain it on verbally, and probably couldn't even really even show you, except I could show you in the movie. But he did something that only fighters do. And either one or two things, either he's had some fights where he picked up this instinctual movement that we make towards each other, because it's something that our intuition picks up off of that makes us make this movement, or he really studies fighters.
Yeah.
So strong that he knew to put this in the movie to entertain us.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to pick up on it.
Either way, it's a good way.
Yeah, nobody's going to pick up on that movie. It wasn't nothing fancy.
Yeah.
It was just a movement he made with the guy he was dealing with. Well, I said, oh, hell no. And I rewound, everybody else would go, well, what'd you see, Jermaine?
Yeah.
Because they waiting to see, him flying through the air and do a backflip over, kick and land and kick dude on the forehead and all that kind of, stand on a tree limb and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's something that impressed me about him.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where that came from, how he did it, why he did it.
Yeah.
But that really, really.
He did Blood and Bone too, and he picked up a lot in that movie too.
Oh, that was Blood and Bone. He made this movie.
He did Never Back Down and Blood and Bone.
I know, but when I'm talking about the movie he made, it was in Blood and Bone at the very end.
He did a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the movie. I was getting confused with Never Back Down too. But that was the movie where it was a really good, very well put together movie, very well written, and he played a really good part. But yeah, at the very end, that the fight that he did at the very end, there was a movement he made that really connected me to him. That made me say, even if he hasn't fought, he's really studying us, and he respects fighters enough where he's picking up on this thing that the audience, the regular movie audience, ain't gonna even see.
Right.
And he put it in there for us, or he's had some real fights. He accidentally made that move.
Yeah. So would you name him as one of your martial art heroes?
Not yet.
Okay.
He got to come out with some more movies for me. He's up there though. He's definitely up there. Because what was the other one, the movie we were watching? Undisputed. You didn't get to see him in Undisputed 2.
No, Undisputed 3. That was...
Yeah, we watched Undisputed 3, which I was supposed to play that part in there that the second character was playing, but he beat me. But he was good.
The characters were like... Yeah.
But Undisputed 2, that's where we got to get there because he's in that and he's just incredible, man.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
I think he's up, and we don't want to talk about Spawn, see?
Oh, yeah.
That was him in Spawn. Yeah, that's right. He was Spawn.
He played a lot of different roles. So.
Yeah, he was Spawn. So, he's just got to make some more. And I'm just older and, what do you call it? I'm more stubborn now. So it's hard to become my hero now.
Yeah,
but
that makes sense.
He's definitely got my attention. And we actually planning on bringing him to St. Louis. Me and Kevin are.
Yeah.
Bring him here as a special guest once we get a good setup and a good reason to bring him. And we'll probably have him on the podcast. I got a lot of questions for him.
Oh, yeah.
So is it, you got anything else you're going to smash me about?
No, I have a few more, but we won't even go that far. So.
Oh, okay. Well, give me one more.
Jackie Chan, Jet Li. We can go pretty deep.
Yeah, we'll get on them later. We got to end it. We out of time
American
here.
Samurai.
Yeah, that's true. That too. Oh man, Kenjiro.
Yeah, we got a few.
We don't.
We'll get back to that.
Let's get back into talking about movies there.
Yeah.
So we won't even cover that one. We'll let that one pass. So.
A new podcast.
All right, well, Jermaine Andre here with my co-host Rebecca Beck, and we signing off. And thank you for listening in to Life Fight.
Take care.
For all things Jermaine Andre, get books, get trained. Learn the secrets behind his brawn, his brain, and his edge. Visit JermaineAndre.com. Life Fight with Jermaine Andre is another positive production of RareGem Productions. Thanks for listening.